What's up, everybody? My name is Darren Greenfield, and welcome to the Kingdom Citizen Reflection. Today, we're going to be talking about something in reference to my response to a question that I was asked. I was asked the other day in reference to biblical ethics if I thought there was something more inherently dangerous about President Trump than I thought was dangerous about President Biden, Obama, Bush, any of the presidents that preceded him. And upon reflection, my answer was yes. And I think that when my answer was yes to this individual, that there was this shock that comes about when we believe this idea of false neutrality. That we believe that the best way for us to be biblically neutral, especially in the arena of politics, because we do not want to find ourselves flowing too deep into the den of politics and ruining our witness, our testimony. But what happens with that false neutrality is actually we don't step up and tell the truth about what we see through our biblical lenses. What we do is we act like, false neutrality is the same thing as living in a fairy tale. We believe that everything is the same and we should be able to judge everything the same, and we should be able and we should rate everything the same or use the same kind of mentality when we're engaging different scenarios, different examples, different people. And we can't do that. So what is so inherently dangerous about President Trump that I believe I have not seen in those like President Biden or Barack Obama? It's simply this. The United States presidency, leadership, kings in the Bible, whether you're in the Old Testament or the New Testament, all of them have either had this outright wickedness or this outright hypocrisy or this quiet hypocrisy. What is inherently different and more dangerous with Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is sincerely and authentically double-minded. This idea of being double-minded, that he actually believes more than one thing, two things, three things at the same time. He rallies individuals up on both sides, all three sides, however many sides of that belief, and he stands in the middle, and his double-mindedness actually sets them on a crash course with one another. Now, believers who have fallen into politics too much, they have ruined, degraded their witness. They have ruined and degraded what worship really looks like. But I think what's really killing the church in the political sphere right now is that we have come up with this idea of not being able to recognize double-mindedness. We have come up with this idea that it is okay that one can maintain two contradictory trains of thought or serve two masters at the same time without violating the tenets of either. Now, what is different about double-mindedness versus hypocrisy? Well, hypocrisy is simply acting like one thing when you are another. You are still in this single-minded mentality. But with double-mindedness, you believe both of these things. Let's look at some scriptures. Maybe I can make it a little clearer through scripture. James 1:5-8 is probably the one that provides us the most foundational understanding of what double-mindedness is. And it says, "But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But he must ask in faith," that's one mind, "without any doubting. For the one who doubts is like the surf of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For that person ought not to expect that he will receive anything from the Lord, being a double-minded man." Here is where double-minded is more inherently dangerous. "Unstable in all his ways." Not hypocritical in all his ways, not acting like one thing and then really being another behind closed doors. Because then we get one idea of what an individual is. But this double-minded man is unstable in all his ways because he can never find the equilibrium. He can never find one place to stand in between these two things that he believes, these three things that he believes, this more than one that he believes at the same time. And he not only believes them at the same time to be the way that he wants to live, he believes them at the same time to actually be true. This Greek word for double-minded in the book of James is dipsoecos. And what it literally means is to be of two souls, to be of two selves. It describes someone who is wavering or indecisive in their belief or actions. When we read it in the scriptures, it's particularly in their faith journey. But in the Greco-Roman world, the concept of this two souls, this double-minded nature was something that showed up significantly spiritually and philosophically, right? That a person would go back and forth in between two trains of thoughts, and sooner or later, in order for one to prove itself true, they would collide on a crash course. That's why you see so much wreckage and carnage around people like Donald Trump. But before I go there, let's look at Zephaniah 1:4-6. It also illustrates this double-mindedness and this conflict between earthly and divine allegiances. Verse 4 says, "So I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will eliminate the remnant of Baal from this place and the names of the idolatrous priests along with the other priests. And those who bow down on the housetop to the heavenly lights, and those who bow down and swear to the Lord, but also swear by Milcom. And those who have turned back from following the Lord, and those who have not sought the Lord, nor inquired of him." The double-mindedness comes from, "and those who bow down and swear to the Lord, but also swear to Milcom." And why is that bad? Because we pick up on the train of thought of that in Luke 16:13 and having the impossibility of dual allegiance. That's why double-mindedness a double-minded man is unstable in all he does, because it is impossible to have a dual allegiance. That if you try to live with a dual allegiance, you either will rip yourself apart, or you rip those apart along with yourself who believe that this kind of allegiance is possible. Luke 16:13, "No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot," and here, "serve God and wealth." You cannot serve God in politics. You cannot serve Jesus and Trump. 1 Corinthians 10:21-24 addresses this also in this incompatibility of a divided spiritual practice. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons. Or do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? We are not stronger than he, are we? All things are permitted, but not all things are of benefit. All things are permitted, but not all things build up. No one is to seek his own advantage, but rather that of his neighbor. So we hear about this double-minded. I can't have this and I can't have that. I can't have my cake and my eat of too. And so what I believe is happening that is really killing the witness, especially of those who are I don't even know if there's a divide between the right and MAGA anymore. What is challenging is that this double-mindedness is what's killing everything. This manifestation of double-mindedness, we can see it in Donald Trump's leadership style. And his double-mindedness is more of a potent double-mindedness. When I think of his double-mindedness is like ADHD, schizophrenia, narcissism, and the pursuit of popularity through destructive means. I mean, he makes you worship him at the same time. His double-mindedness is like that. that he makes people believe one thing, and then he makes them at the same time, or another group of people, believe another thing. And he not only makes them believe in the things that he's talking about, he makes them worship him while doing it, either by how much they support him or how much they pay and bribe to lean at his feet. Now, this is all theory until I actually lay it down into some practical decisions that we've seen Donald Trump make and what he's talked about. Donald Trump at the same time believes in law and order, but also believes in this unhindered retribution. He does these mass firings of the FBI. He believes that we should have law and order, but he believes that he can destroy, destruct, tamper with, rip apart that law and order if that law and order tries to hold him to law and order. So at one time, he had people saying, oh my God, we should back the blue. But when the blue goes against his supporters, he pardons them. And it's no longer back the blue. And people are confused. And now what he's done is he's had police lovers and police haters battling with one another until they collide. But that's not only dangerous because of the people who follow him, it's also dangerous because of the widespread institutional turnover that is affecting national security. That right now, there's a possibility that the United States of America is one of the most unsafe countries in the world. Not because we don't have the means or the capability to defend ourselves, but because this widespread institutional turnover that has no handoff within it, because both of these sides are in a battle. And with this widespread institutional turnover, we have this erosion of stable governance and the structures that hold it up. Because of that, we are significantly less safe than we were with prior presidents. Let me give you another one. Donald Trump he will tell you that he is of the mind of being for the common man. Make America great again is the slogan. But he gives his access and only can be accessed by oligarchs. Ola, whatever you want to go, tomato. Make America great again. But only the ones who America was already great for can get to me. Make America great again. I'm for the common man. But Elon Musk gave me $290 million, and I told him he can do whatever he wants to the common man. You can fire them. You can lock them out of their offices, out of their data systems. You can lay them off. We can do spending freezes. We can do whatever you want. Why? Because I don't need to make America great again for the common man. And at one time, he made all of people believe that Elon Musk was for the common man and the common man was for Elon Musk. But when he was courting them both, he was courting them in a double-minded way with two different philosophies. Who wins out? It's not even the one that's most important to him, I don't think. It's the one that is closest to him. It's the one that can stroke his ego the most. Elon Musk wins out because $290 million gets you closer than a federal employee. And then after Elon Musk, he still doesn't go down to the regular people. Who does he go to? He goes to the big CEOs who are giving all this money to the inauguration. Don't fool yourself. I understand giving to inaugurations and whatnot. All this money to the inauguration is just a gift of worship or a bribe to the current emperor of capitalism. You've never heard of individuals giving in the way that these big CEOs are giving. What they are doing is they are buying their business lives. Let's move on. Let's talk about mass deportation versus building up the American economy. He's double-minded. He's saying he's going to build up the economy, but he's mass deporting. And my thing about there's a difference in what he's doing with the mass deportation rather than just his premise of immigration. What's the difference? His premise of immigration is hurting certain industries, right? Hurts us all: agriculture, farm, construction, anything that is heavy reliance on immigrant labor, whether it be crop harvesting, seasonal work demands, right? They're experiencing labor shortages, potential crop losses due to an insufficient workforce. There's tons of videos going around in the construction industry about the key role of immigrant workers in residential and commercial construction with these specialized construction skills and experience, that the projects are delayed or pretty much stopped because the workers are scared to come. But he told you he was going to make America great again. But he doesn't realize that the history of America is that it has only been great off of cheap or stolen labor. And so he makes you think that you can have hatred and prosperity at the same time. But now we're seeing increased costs due to labor shortages. We're seeing impact on the housing market and infrastructure development. The economic ripple effects that we see in these labor market gaps is difficulty of finding domestic workers for these sectors. I can't afford to pay higher wages because I'm losing projects and everything. Companies are going to begin to shut down. Small businesses are going to get harmed. That's him on the immigration front. But on the mass deportation front, he talks about this fiscal responsibility. But mass deportation is one of the most irresponsible things that he could possibly do fiscally. Why? The Mirror reported on this because they say if you go through the regular ropes with DHS and you get a DHS, Department of Homeland Security chartered flight, that the price per that flight is around $8,700 an hour. But Donald Trump, wanting to be big, wanting to be boastful, wanting to sell the show without telling you how much it costs, ends up putting these people on C-17s and C-130s. And the Mirror did analyze the flight to, I think it was Guatemala. From the United States to Guatemala, it was a 12-hour flight. C-17 can be up to $21,000 an hour for a flight. So you do that times 12 and you come up to over $200,000. A C-130 can be over $70-something thousand an hour per flight. And I'll put the article up here where you can reference the information. That takes us up to close to $800,000. But he's slashing the government budget, but overspending in the government budget at the same time. He's saying we're spending too much on operating when he's spending close to $1 million for a 12-hour flight to show his base that his hatred is in full effect. 80 people on a plane that costs between $21,000 and $80,000 an hour. This double-mindedness is more dangerous because it puts us on a collision course. Donald Trump is not stuck in a place where he is trying to take the country in a different direction. There are many other presidents who say they've tried to take the country in a different direction, and they've played and some of them have lived in this place of hypocrisy. I'm not saying that they should get away scot-free, but what I am saying is that there is a deeper inherent danger within how Donald Trump has been seen to operate, within how President Trump has been seen to operate, because he's double-minded, unstable in all he does. And so if you believe the scriptures, you've already come to the conclusion that all Donald Trump can offer us is an increased instability. An increased instability where we are on a crash course with one another. Once again, my name is Darren Greenfield. Thank you for joining us for this Kingdom Citizen reflection. We'll see you on the next one.